Hello, good afternoon. My name is Chris. I'll be your nurse for today. I know you had just spoken to the physician, so just want to reinforce some of the things that he was talking to you about your new diagnosis about gout. Would that be okay if I share some information just to kind of give you a heads up of what you're experiencing and what to expect? Well, very good. Thank you very much. Well, I know receiving a new diagnosis can feel very overwhelming, so I'm here just to break things down for you in a simple, easy to understand way. Okay, so let's talk about what the doctor diagnosed you with is something called gout. Now let's talk about like what it is, how it affects your body, what symptoms to watch out for, and what you can do to manage it. All right, so you're wondering what is gout? This very strange medical term, and how does it affect your body? Okay, so maybe those are some of the things that is going on in your mind. Let's just try to explain it simply. Probably not using so many deep medical terms to confuse the conversation, but I'll break it down. So gout, okay, Gout, gout, is just basically it's a type of inflammatory arthritis. Well, what's that? It's a condition that causes painful swelling inside of your joints. Okay, think about like places where your bones connect, like your knees, your ankles, and especially a big part is the toes, which is where you were diagnosed with the gout, which is your right toe, big toe. Okay, how does it happen? How does it start up? It starts with the buildup of uric acid. What is uric acid? Why is there acid inside of me? Well, it's just basically a waste product your body makes when it breaks down certain foods in your blood. Okay, and your body makes uric acid when it breaks down substances. It breaks it down into something called purines. What are purines? Why are purines in me? What is that? Natural chemicals found in certain foods and drinks. Okay, like red meat, shellfish, and alcohol. Okay, so problem happens when there is too much uric acid inside of your body, and your body can't get rid of it fast enough through urination and through the excretion process of the body, which is doing number 2, peeing, and the such. And when that happens, the uric acid starts to develop and form. And when they start forming together, they start to develop these tiny, you might think of it like sharp crystal structures that collect inside of what you were diagnosed with, gout, in your joints, right? Your right toe. And think of it as just tiny pieces of broken glass. Or maybe you're in construction, you might think like fiberglass, these microscopic crystallizations. And when that's in your joints, it forms in there, that can be painful. Okay? Your immune system, your body's natural defense system that fights off those threats, it sees those crystals as a danger, and then it launches an attack against that. And that attack, the body immune system saddling up to get rid of that can cause the intense pain, swelling, and inflammation. Okay? Inflammation, the redness, heat, swelling. So just to break it down simply, your immune system is trying to protect you, but it ends up making things much worse, okay? Because those crystals are not going away on their own. Yeah. So now let's talk about how you might feel, signs and symptoms. Gout symptoms usually come on suddenly, which is what brought you into the office recently, because you suddenly felt that pain. Often in the middle of the night, which you had described that it happened at like 3 a.m. in the morning, and as a very intense 9 out of 10 pain, very common symptomology for that one. Okay, and here's what to watch out for. Okay, like you experienced already, severe joint pain, sudden intense pain, mostly in the big toe, but it can also affect ankles, knees, and wrists. Swelling and erythema. There's redness and puffiness around the affected joint. That's what you probably see, or what we see with your right toe. Warmth, your joint might feel actually hot to the touch when you feel it. Tenderness or extreme sensitivity, even with light weight of a bed sheet, which you described to me, like even something very light, like even if it feels like a piece of paper, it can feel unbearable. That's how sensitive things can be, and that's what you've described to us. Limited range of motion, the joint feels stiff, very hard to move. The big toe can't move so much without much pain. So those are called the gout flare-ups, the sudden attacks when symptoms get very bad. It can last anywhere from a few days to a couple of weeks. Okay, Over time, which I'm glad you came into the office to get that checked out and treated. Over time, if it's left untreated, you may develop a hard lump under your skin, and that's called tophi. Okay, hard, chalky lumps or bumps caused by uric acid buildup underneath the skin. Okay, this is why we're managing your account early, and it's very important that you came in today, which we're very happy for. So now for the important part, okay, I understand all that. How do I get rid of it? Okay, what are some interventions or things that will help me, or I'm saying you, to manage that? All right, most important thing, there are 3 things that helps manage it. Your doctor had talked about it. We'll talk over again too to reinforce that, to manage it and also to live well. Okay, number 1 thing, we talked about that it is the development of these crystal-like structures that derives from the food source. So why don't we cut it off right at the, so to speak, head, and cut off right from where the source starts, which is dietary modifications, changes to what we may be eating or you may be eating, okay? So certain foods that has high in purines that we talked about, the chemicals that causes the uric acid buildup, they can trigger the flare. So you want to avoid some things such as red meats, organ meats like liver, kidney, shellfish, like shrimp, lobster, mussels, alcohol, beer and spirits, hard liquors, sugary drinks that are high in fructose corn syrup. That's found in sodas, processed snacks. Okay, so then what's the alternative? That sounds like I'm cutting out a lot. Well, we can focus on switching it out more with fresh vegetables, low-fat dairy, whole grains, and this is one of the number 1 interventions that we can employ and to practice, because these are actually shown to really help uric acid levels naturally. Because when you don't have the source of that purine production, which is from these foods, then the gout gets better. It can't fuel up that crystallization process. Number 2, medication adherence. So just taking your medications as prescribed. We'll see what the physician orders for you, but there are 2 classifications of medications that he will give to you that will help with 1, the flare up, okay, and also a prevention for it too, on top of the dietary changes. So medications like colchicine, okay, that helps stop the flare while it's actively happening, okay. That's for the flare-up. This just 1 medication out of many the doctor could prescribe. While others like allopurinol, a uric acid lowering medication, or those are taken daily to prevent future flares from occurring. Okay, very important to stay on these medications as directed, even on days you feel completely fine, because we want to prevent the buildup, okay, and prevent it from triggering another flare. So the doctor will prescribe a certain type of medication for the flare and even for the buildup too, and we can look more deep into it once we get that medication list that he will prescribe to you, okay? On top of him explaining what those medication interventions may be. Number 3, we'll keep it simple. Sounds like a very cliche thing, but it's hydration. Drinking enough water every day. I'm sure you hear it all the time from everybody. We hear that floating around, but it's actually very, very important. Incredibly powerful. Staying hydrated, that helps the kidneys filter waste from your blood. It flushes that excess uric acid, which we talked about is the source of the crystallization. Flushes it out your body and through the urine before it has a chance to form those painful crystals. So very important to do that. That's exactly how water drinking it will help. At least 8 to 10 glasses of water per day. Okay, if you're having a flare, certain gout medications, your provider may recommend even more water, okay, because we want to flush it out. Like we said, we want to avoid the sugary drinks and alcohol as your main fluids, and these make the uric acid levels worse, not better, all right? So thank you for your time. I know we covered a lot. Do you have any questions about perhaps maybe the way that I was explaining things? I just want to make sure it comes off clear. Okay, very good. No questions. Well, I kind of have a question for you just to kind of make sure that my explanation was clear for you. What are some things that, interventions that can be used that you can employ in your daily life when it comes to diet that will help you out? Yeah, very nice. Okay, great. And that seems like a very achievable goal on your part there, and we're all for it and to support you with that. Very nice. Well, just to kind of recap, we talked about a lot of things, so I said it'll be simple, but we'll just recap it simply. So gout happens when uric acid, natural waste product, builds up and forms those crystals, tiny sharp particles like we talked about in your joints, especially the big toe that you're dealing with, that triggers your immune system, the body's defense to get rid of it, so it attacks it, and that even makes it worse, causing intense pain and swelling. Okay, so if we want to remember anything, the 3 modifications: modify the diet. Okay, avoid high purine foods like we talked about. Take the prescription medications your doctor will provide, and we'll talk about that later too when we get the list. Stay hydrated. Flush the uric acid out. So 3 things: diet, medication, stay hydrated. Yeah, so gout is very manageable. You can have the right lifestyle changes if we follow this plan. So we'll talk more about this in the future on your follow-up, and we'll get you your medication list too as well. We can talk about that when the doctor comes out with it. Well, thank you for your time. We hope to see you soon, and take care.